Welcome to How to Run Profitable Retreats. I am Leni Cavazos, retreat strategist and host of the show for coaches, entrepreneurs, and transformational leaders who want to design retreats that actually make money. If you've ever put your heart into a retreat only to walk away exhausted or worse, broke, you are not alone. This podcast is here to change that. Each week, I'll bring you stories, strategies, and expert insights to help you create meaningful, transformational retreats that also support your business, your lifestyle, and your bottom line. Let's make your next retreat not just powerful, but profitable. Hello, welcome back to another podcast episode of How to Run Profitable Retreats. I am your host, Leni Cavazos, and I am so excited to have here with me today Timothy Flemming Jr. And today we're going to be talking about how you can actually turn your book into retreats. So I'm super excited. And I'll just tell you a little bit about Timothy so you get to know him a little bit better before we even begin this conversation. But he has spent over a decade helping hundreds of authors publish their books through his company, T&J Publishers. But what he noticed changed everything is most authors don't struggle with writing their book. They struggle with what comes next. Right? So from mindset, imposter syndrome, fear, self-doubt, that keeps them from sharing their message boldly. For others, it was strategy, knowing how to turn the book into a coaching program, a digital offer, a retreat, or a business that could sustain them. So he, as the founder of the Kingdom Launchpad, he helps Christian and self-help authors and experts become both. He draws from 30 years of ministry experience, 10 years in publishing, and the same system he has his wife, Jackie, used to build multiple six-figure businesses. I am so excited to have you here today, Timothy. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So, Timothy, tell me a little bit about how do you see turning your book into other offers like retreats?
Okay, so like you mentioned in the introduction, I've been helping authors just write and publish their books. Been doing that since 2013. And one of the things that I noticed was with all of these incredible authors that I've worked with, most of them, when they would publish their books, their reading audience would read the book and say, "Oh, that was awesome. Do you have something else to offer? Do you have a next level? Do you have a program or mentorship or something?" The book was incredible, but where's the next level? And most times when I would work with authors, in their mind, they would be thinking, well, let me come out with another book or maybe another book after that. But one of the things I usually tell my authors is, look, your book is really just a gateway product that leads them into a deeper relationship with you. And that's the reason why you want to take that book and not just focus on the book, but turn that book into something much bigger. Turn it into a program, maybe a mentorship or a coaching program, or in this case, turn it into a retreat. And that's actually something that my wife and I have actually done and done so successfully. And it's beautiful when you see it come together. But that's one of the things that I noticed that's missing from a lot of authors is that next level. Just understanding that book is really just a gateway product to lead them into your ecosystem where you can really work with them on a deeper level.
Yeah, I love it. Seeing your book in a way as a lead generation for them to get to know you better, connect more, right? So if we think about like marketing and the amount of hours that, for example, someone needs in order to know you, like you, and trust you, and buy, for example, specifically to buy a sophisticated offer from you, they need to spend 11 hours of content. So you can be skipping the line by having a book because they'll get to spend so much time with you while they're reading their book, right? It is time that they're spending with you because it's your message, it's your voice, is what you wanted to share. So you're getting them so much closer to an actual sale. So it does make sense to then have a secondary, a third offer, right? Thinking about your value ladder offer into the space.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about these retreats that you've put with your wife after, from your book. Like, what is kind of like that journey, and how does it help the people attending your retreats?
Yeah, so actually, when my wife and I, when we first started out, and I love to tell this, my first client was my wife. That was my first client back in 2013. It was my wife, and by the way, she never paid her outstanding balance, so that's kind of still. When I say that, some people like, really, you sent her an invoice? I'm joking, but she was my first client. And when we first started out, it started with a book. It started with a book that she had in her heart. And the title of that book was Purpose Seekers, a book designed to teach people how to discover their purpose. We launched the book, but we wanted to find a way to really, I won't even say diversify or create multiple income streams at that time. We just wanted to expand the reach and the impact of the book. We understood that having a book was profoundly important. Having a book increases your credibility, according to some sources, nearly 300%. That when people know that you have a book, they see you, they perceive you differently when you have that distinguished title of published author. So having a book was the first step, but we wanted a way to really just expand our reach and have a more direct impact in people's lives. So we started putting on events. We took the book and converted it into an event. And that event was called a Night of Purpose. And that event, it began to just take off on its own. And over the years, it went from just a handful of people to hundreds of people showing up, people coming from Canada, from Guatemala, from South America. We trying to figure out where did these people come from. And so it became a very successful event, and one that really just, like I say, just took on a life of its own. And we had so many people just looking forward to the event more than the book or anything else, year after year. But that entire process is really just about connecting with people. And I know we're probably going to talk about a little bit how, go into a little bit of strategy on how to actually set up these events and how to reach out to people and make that connection. But one of the things that you said was so important is that when a person reads your book, they're getting to know you. They're discovering who you are. They're getting to know your story. They're getting to understand you and what motivates you and what really moves you. And that's the most important thing, because trust is the most important word. It's all about trust. And when you put yourself out there, you create that wonderful book, you're making yourself vulnerable, and vulnerability is a key ingredient in trust.
Mm. Yeah, and I think something that you said that is very, very important for everyone who's listening here is okay, so the book was for purpose seekers, and then the event was a night to find your purpose. So it's all connected, right? It was not separate. It was not now about opening up your heart to your heart's desires or anything different. It was all connected, right? So your book leads you to this night of purpose, and then it probably leads you to a coaching program, and then it probably can lead you to a mastermind, and then to another retreat. But the theme throughout, and this is what I want people to notice, is seeking, for people who are seeking their purpose.
Yeah, it started, like I say, with the book. The book is Purpose Seekers. Then we went from there to an event, a Night of Purpose. Then we went from a Night of Purpose, the event, to launching a coaching program. And the title of that coaching program was the Purpose Boot Camp. It was a boot camp and intensive to train people on how to discover your purpose. And then it went from there to a 2-day retreat that my wife launched. And that retreat, it was actually called the Boss Up Weekend, where she just got a lot of the ladies and brought them in to really just teach the same framework from from the Purpose Boot Camp, but to do it in a little bit more intimate setting and with food and all kind of things available. So it was just a progression of different events that we created, but it came from that same book, and it kept the same theme. And that's the important thing. You don't want to change the theme. You want to, even if you create an event, you want to keep the name. You want to keep certain keywords in the title. So everything was about purpose. It was about branding purpose, purpose. So night of purpose, purpose seekers, purpose boot camp, everything. It was all centered around that same theme of purpose.
And I think this is so important. And please tell me if you think differently. But so many times when we're entrepreneurs and we're starting our own businesses, we just want to have so many different offers because we can help people in so many different layers. So then our messaging gets confusing rather than just focusing on one thing and being like, purpose is my thing, right? Your wife was like, purpose is my thing. That's it. Forget about everything else. Yes, I'm sure she can probably teach people on many, many other layers in life, but she chose purpose, and it was, I'm going to focus on this, and then I'm going to become the authority on purpose.
Yeah, and that's incredible what you said, because that's probably the number one thing that causes stagnation in so many gifted people's lives. I mean, there are so many people. I'll never forget, it was a couple of years ago at an event my wife was doing, and I was basically kind of running her product table and just, kind of helping out behind the scenes. But there was a young lady that came up, and she was talking to me and my wife and just telling us about all of the wonderful things. She's a serial entrepreneur. And sometimes when people say I'm a serial entrepreneur, I interpret that as overworked and underpaid. You don't have enough money.
I love it.
Okay. But she was a serial entrepreneur, and I already knew where the conversation was about to go. She said, "Look, I have so many ideas. I have so many gifts, so many talents. I do hair, I do lashes, I write books, I do this." And she listed at least about 8 or 9 different things that she did. And I just stopped her. I said, "Look, I understand you're multi-talented. I understand you have a lot of gifts. But the truth of the matter is, a jack of all trades, a master of none. You have to focus only on one thing. And sometimes one thing can develop into multiple things, but it's all centered around that one thing." And there's a book out by Keller Williams entitled One Thing. In other words, he said in this book that the most successful companies are the ones that, rather than trying to focus on a number of different products or services, they only focus on mastering one thing. And you can take that one thing and allow it to develop into multiple different things in and of itself. So, for example, YouTube, they started with just one service. We just want to be a video format or platform for video content creators, just do nothing but videos. But then as time progressed, they began to diversify. They added streaming services. They allowed people to do live streaming. Now they have paid services for those that want to watch movies. They found different ways to monetize that one thing that they were doing. And oftentimes that's one of the holdups that many of us encounter. We have too many gifts, too many things we're trying to do at one time, not realizing that one thing may be the key that just transforms your life, just that one thing. And you have to really be confident in that one thing. And so I would usually tell people to sit down and just analyze, what is the one thing that you're most passionate about? So for me, it was writing. I'd always been a writer. When I was in elementary school, I'm a little kid. Back then we had typewriters, and I'm a little kid, and I'm sitting in my dad's study, and I'm just sitting at the typewriter. I don't even know what to write. I just know I had the compulsion to write something. And that was always the one thing that stood out to me. So when I prayed and asked God, "Lord, what is the thing that I need to do if I'm going to start a business? What do I need to focus on?" The only light bulb that went off: what is the one thing you've done all your life the one thing that has been a consistent, just a mainstay in your life, something that is the number one passion in your heart. And that's when it came to me that I need to take my gift of writing and turn that into a business. So learn how to focus on one thing so that you don't find yourself scatterbrained.
I love this. And you made me think about Apple, right? So they started when, well, typography first, right? And then it was just one computer until they became so good at it, right? That then they started adding other products. But
Yeah.
as also they go, but it's an addition. But even now, then they had one phone eventually, right? So, and then they started adding more. And I was in the Apple store the other day because we were buying some new phones and a computer and, you know, upgrading the tech part of my life. And then I told the guy, okay, so I want an iPhone. And he's like, which one? I'm like, what do you mean about like which one? It's a normal or the pro, right? I want the pro. He's like, no, but we have 5 different iPhones now. And I'm like, what? It just made it confusing.
Yeah.
And then I went back and I started looking at the numbers, and it's not really working that much for them, right? Because now you have all these different versions. And when you have so many options, but it creates confusion. And
Yeah.
confused people do not buy.
Yeah.
Luckily, I knew exactly what I was going for, and I told him, this is what I want. This is the amount of gigas that I want, and this is the color that I want.
Mm-hmm.
But even just the choice of colors, it makes you, oh, do I want the orange, or do I want the blue, or do I want the gray, right? So when we have so many different options, confused people do not take action.
Yeah. And that's a powerful statement because we oftentimes assume that the more, the better. If I just provide more options, if I have more programs, if I have more of this, more just a lot. And sometimes we're thinking we want to have such a wide net. We want to be able to capture everyone. I don't want to miss anyone. I don't want to miss, if I don't want to miss this type of client. I don't want to miss that type of client. And we think that if we would just cast a wider net, then we would get more business, we would get more clients, we would get more income. But actually, the opposite is the truth. The reverse of that is the case. The more refined you are, the more that you niche down. And I'll give a good example of this when it comes to, for example, in the coaching industry. Some people they kind of approach the subject matter and they say, look, I just want to work with everyone. I just want to work with everyone. And oftentimes I would stop my coaching clients and deal with them the same way I would deal with my writing clients. And I would say, look, you need to be very refined and very detailed on who you're trying to work with. If you're writing a book, who are you writing that book for? Who are you trying to reach with your book? I just want to be a blessing to everyone. I'm sorry, that's not good enough. You need to be very detailed. Are you writing for women? Are you writing for men? Are you writing for a certain demographic or a certain age group? Because all of those factors determine how you're going to tell the story. And the same thing with coaching. Don't just say, hey, I'm a life coach, but are you a relationship coach? I'll give a good example of this. One of my clients, she's an older lady, and she lives in South Georgia, and she has a very unique experience. I'm just going to be a little frank and a little blunt with this one here, but she has a very unique experience. She's an African American lady, and she's married to a Caucasian man in South Georgia, where unfortunately, believe it or not, people still look at that is as awkward. And I said, you have a very unique experience. Don't just call yourself a relationship coach, but instead niche down that I specialize in helping interracial couples to navigate the hurdles of that type of relationship, because there are certain challenges that those couples have that other couples don't have.
Oh my
And
gosh, this is so good.
the more niche down you get, the more you actually separate yourself and stand out from the crowd. And that's how you actually attract people to you, rather than cause people to just walk right past you, because like you said a moment ago, if it's too many options, it's too much, then you're just going to confuse people. It's going to cause them to burn calories. The brain actually burns calories. We know that now. That's why people, they get exhausted when there are too many options and they're trying to figure out. So just narrow it down so that you make it a lot easier for people. So again, you really hit on a very classic mistake that a lot of people make.
Mm. Oh my gosh, Timothy, I think this is such a great example. And I'm always talking about, Alex Formosi talks about niche slapping, right? Like slap yourself until you niche down. and I agree. And for me, it's all about being a bigger fish in a smaller pond.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Yeah. You get to choose the pond of your business. Why would you choose to be a small fish on a big pond?
Yeah.
Right? For me, it just doesn't make sense, but I see it over and over and over again into the space. Even when people are trying to sell retreats, they focus so much on selling retreats from being a coach to other coaches that they're narrowing their audience in a place that it's overcrowded with offerings, when sometimes it's not even about changing their niche. It's about the marketing and the messaging to the person who is not specifically a coach, right? So you need to be very smart when you are doing this, right? So because we're promoting, right? We're doing marketing campaigns, we're putting things out there, and then we are just speaking the wrong language. So even if we're niche down, right? So let's say you're talking to someone and you're talking to women, but your messaging is very focused on like on men. Yeah. Then there's a disconnect. So it's about the whole process. It's not just one thing. It's not like, oh, I know I'm very specific about my niche. It's about, I know then how to speak to my niche. I know where my niche hangs out. So I can hang out in those places, right? That may be in-person events, that might be retreats, that might be online, that might be Facebook groups, LinkedIn. There's endless options and opportunities. And then how do I actually convert them into clients, because I have what they need. So I really think this example of your client is so unique. It's so good, because we think we can help so many people. And at the beginning of my journey in my career, I used to talk about to people, say, hey, can you really actually serve 8 billion people? If you serve everyone, can you actually serve 8 billion people? And then I would break it even more. And I would say there's 23 million millionaires in the US. So if your focus was to serve millionaires, could you actually serve 23 million millionaires? So because if you're niching down, you're saying, I work with millionaires. I'm like, yeah, which millionaire?
Yeah.
Right. We do not have the capacity to serve absolutely everyone. It's impossible. So why would we put ourselves in a place where we're going to struggle to launch and grow our business? Because we just want to please people. We want to be liked by everyone. Right?
Yeah, and that is profoundly important, because like you said, we just feel like the more, if I could just be liked, like you just said, if I could be liked by everyone, I just want to serve more and more people. And I'll be honest with you, when I first started my publishing business, that was my attitude. I just want to serve everyone. I want to serve everyone. Trust me when I tell you, that was a horrible mistake. I found out that not all money is good money. I found out that not everyone is your ideal client. Some people may not have the type of mindset that you would want to work with. I discovered, and I'll be honest with you, because for me, my lack of understanding in that area when I first started out, it caused me to put more stress on myself. When you're trying to serve everyone and you're not niche down, you don't take the time to do the inner work. The inner work before you launch a program. Get clear on who your ideal client is. Before you write a book, get clear on who your target audience is. Do the work. Take the time out to find out, who am I trying to reach? What are all of the particulars of that individual? And I'll give you a shortcut. I'll give you a hack for
yes.
all of your listeners. When you're trying to build out your ideal client, just think about you maybe 5 or 10 years ago. think about where you were mentally and emotionally, what your struggles were, the things that you were facing, and just really envision that you are your own ideal client. Because when you're helping someone to navigate certain challenges and you're giving them a blueprint on how to achieve certain successes in their lives, really you can only lead them down the path that you have taken. So you really want to use yourself as kind of the framework or to begin building out that ideal client profile. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, where were you? What were your challenges? What were you thinking? What were the roadblocks or the limiting beliefs that you were wrestling with? What were the things that you were facing, the financial challenges? And if you can really just sit down and just kind of extract from your own experience that ideal client, then you'll be able to build a client avatar that you can use in your marketing to begin reaching people that are dealing with the same circumstances or similar circumstances, the same mentality, the same limiting beliefs, and you'll be able to put together marketing to reach those people. And you'll be able to really touch on their pain points effectively because you'll be able to say, look, I know what you're feeling because I was there. I've been there. I experienced what you're experiencing. So I know where you are, but I'm here to help you, and I'm here to be the guide to help you get to where you're trying to go in life. So yes, that's profoundly important that we need to understand. Don't try to be everything. And when I tried to be everything, I ended up in the hospital. I ended up in the hospital for a stress-related illness because I was trying to be everything. So you definitely don't want to go down that path. And I had to learn the hard way that when you're taking on too much and you're not really doing the work to make sure that you are niching down and you're trying to accommodate everyone, all you're going to do is overload yourself and burn yourself out, and also, even if God forbid, put your own health at risk. So you want to make sure that you're niching down. Don't be so concerned about trying to get the dollar that you forget this is about serving. But in the process of serving, you're not called to serve everyone. You are called to serve certain people, but you're not called to accommodate everyone. And sometimes when people fall into that trap, it's not so much about the money, but it's more about limiting beliefs that they hold about themselves, that they feel like it's their obligation to serve everyone, as if they're trying to convince themselves of something or overcompensate for something, and that can be a trap in and of itself.
Mm-hmm. I like to have examples that are very kind of like normal life examples to think of, to really bring this whole concept together. And what came to me, it's theater, right? So first of all, not everyone likes to go to the theater, right? So you're already filtering people out, right? So when you're putting a play, you're already filtering out those who don't want to go to the theater because they rather go to the movies, right? Or they'd rather go to the park or whatever it is. And then even from there, if you're putting a musical, you're filtering out all those people who do not like a musical. I love musicals, for example, so I'll go. But even from musicals, there's again another filter because I do not like musicals that are very, very sad.
Yeah.
I do not want to go to a musical where I'm going to come out crying because I'm sad. I want to come crying because of the emotions, because of the happiness, because of what it makes me feel, right? So I'll even choose that, right? So that's even another filter. And then you even filter more because you play for a season, right? So it's not available all year long. So, or some of them, of course, they have longer seasons, like, I don't know, The Lion King, right? Usually it's like 3 years in one location. But in general, you have a season, so it's only available for a specific amount of time. So this creates an urgency, right? Because you have to come within the dates that the show is going to be performing. Mm-hmm. Then even more, you have a set amount of seats available, right? Scarcity. If you do not book your ticket and the theater is sold out, then you cannot come again, that's it. That's the end of the journey, right? So, but if we really, like, for everyone who's listening, think about what I just told you, because I just showed you the whole process of creating an irresistible offer, right? It's so specific, the offer. There's a price point for your tickets, right? People, and the more, the closer, the more proximity you want to the stage, the higher the price ticket, right? So that would be your in-person experiences, where you get the most proximity, right? That's the backstage access to the actors, right? To the performers. So think of your business in a way. You can think about it from a perspective of a theater. Where would everything fit? Where is your price point? Where is your offer? Where is your urgency? Where is your scarcity? Where is your marketing? Right? How do you promote? Where do you promote? And it makes a huge difference. And it's just about bringing it sometimes and seeing other businesses and being like, what do they do? And how can I implement a business that maybe has nothing to do with coaching, but it's a business that runs, that makes profit, that has an experience, that's creating transformation in people's lives? Because every time I go to the theater, I come out a different person, right? So I'm changing my life by going to the theater. So I think this is just such an important message when we're thinking about not trying to serve everyone, and seeing that this is not just something that happens inside of the coaching industry. I want you to like burst out of your bubble of thinking that this is the way coaches do it. No, this is the way business are run.
Yeah. Every business, all of those elements that you just brought out, all of those are the basics. I would say the basics of every single business, of just understanding your audience, understanding, like you just mentioned, some people love musicals. I hate to say it, I'm one of those that I don't really care too much for musicals. So I will be the one that's out. So if you say, oh, a musical is coming to town, I'm like, oh, that's all right. I'll sit this one out. But understanding your audience, understanding their wants, and understanding your needs, I think that's really, like I say, that's the foundation. That's the foundation. And understanding what transformation they are looking for, because ultimately all businesses, coaching or any other type of business, they all operate under that one promise, is that we're going to provide a transformation, a specific transformation that you're looking for. Even a dog, a dog groomer, hey, bring your dog, bring your pet. We're going to transform your dog. Your dog is going to look more beautiful than they've ever looked after they leave our pet salon. It's a promise of a transformation. So what you just said is so critically important. It's understanding the needs and the wants of your particular audience, and understanding that those principles you just laid out, those are key for every type of business. The scarcity, creating urgency, understanding, again, the pain points and what transformation your particular ideal client is looking for. All of these things, and even in some cases, creating, like you just mentioned, there are different tiers. So if you just want an online course, well, that's one price. But if you want more direct access, you want to work with, and that's what we did with my wife. She had an online course, and that was one thing. But now we're going to create an actual program. We're going to do a 2-day event, and it's going to be an intensive. And if you would like to be a part of this intensive, where I'm working directly with you, and the two of us, we're working together and here's another element. I'm sorry, I want to add this one in: speed. Speed, because if I promise you that, hey, over the next 90 days, I can help you reach this goal, that sounds good, but it doesn't sound as good as over this 3-day weekend, I'm going to help you achieve the same exact goal. People tend to pay more for speed than anything else, especially nowadays. So having that sense of urgency, scarcity, incorporating speed, which is something that some of you may want to look into. How do I take what I'm doing and now condense it so that I could turn this, instead of a 90-day program, turned it into a 3-day intensive. Because that's something that really excites a lot of people is just that speed. So looking at all of those elements, those are key elements to building a very successful business in general, especially a successful coaching program.
I love it. Timothy, thank you so much for being here. I think it's so important that you're just not helping people publish their books, but everything that comes along with it. And I think this is something that makes you very, very different. And also you work with like Christian authors. So you're very, very niche. And I love it. And it's such a great conversation because a lot of like publishing companies, their niche and their specialty is getting you published. But what happens after, right? So I think this is something so important. So if anyone wants to connect with you, what's the best way for them to do it?
The best way is I would just say go to my website. The website at www.timothyflemming, and Flemming is spelled with 2 M's, FLEMMING JR, TimothyFlemmingJr.com. And right there you can find I have a lot of free resources on my website as well that people can take advantage of. So I would say that's the best way to connect with me.
Oh, I love it. And for everyone who's listening, just go to show notes and the link will be there. So you don't even have to type it for yourself. Isn't that easy? So Timothy, thank you so much for being here. It's such a pleasure. And for everyone who's listening, think about your theater. Think about your theater. That's your homework for today. And if you love this episode, please leave a comment and share it with a friend so more people can listen to this. And I'll see you all next week.
All right.